Well, now that the weather has warmed up, we're seeing motorcycles on our roads once again. And we probably all need a reminder to drive cautiously, watch out for those bikers. Joining us to talk about motorcycle safety and awareness is Chris Plumb, who is a spokesperson for Bikers Building Bridges right here in Lethbridge. Chris, welcome to the show. So great to have you on today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Now, first of all, can you tell us a bit about Bikers Building Bridges? What is it and what does your organization do?
Bikers Building Bridges is a nonprofit. We're a registered nonprofit in Lethbridge. We work primarily with youth at risk. So we do needle cleanup, special events that are all free for the community. We did the trunk or treat last Halloween at the exhibition, had about 800 cars come through full of kids, and they got tons and tons of candy. It was all COVID friendly. And that was free to the kids. We also had a drive through with Santa so they could get their pictures taken during these times where it just wasn't really accessible to go to a mall and get that done. And then we have a mentor program that runs out at Canadian Mixed Martial Arts when the gyms are open, of course. And we had 5 kids go through last year, the year before, sorry, and they just learned some jiu-jitsu and kickboxing and meet other friends there, and you gain that self discipline to learn a new thing and the confidence to take on the world basically, and realize that it's not always how it is in school where kids can
Yeah.
be mean and have bad words towards you, and you meet the right kids and get the right environment going.
I love that. So, your organization is all about building those bridges with the community. I know before the interview, we were talking about the name of your organization, Bikers Building Bridges, and how you guys came up with that name.
Yeah, yeah, and it's basically our way to kind of get rid of the stigma on bikers. A lot of people don't see a group of bikers riding around and think, oh, they must be doing some charity work or helping somebody. They think they're maybe out for a ride or just out doing their thing. Our name, we kind of want to bridge the community between the nonprofits and the different charities and groups to help everybody get connected with the resources they need, and to do as much good as we can.
That's awesome. Now, do you have any upcoming events that we should know about?
We have some that we're trying to plan. With COVID, we're not putting anything really
Yeah.
into a concrete state just because things change so quickly.
It's so hard to
Um,
plan anything these days, isn't it?
it is. We're going to do our trunk or treat and our drive through with Santa towards the end of the year again
Right.
as well. We have space reserved for that at the exhibition parking lot as well. Last year we had about 20 trunks for our Halloween. We're hoping to double that, so even more candy for more kids.
Yeah.
And we're looking at a couple of summer projects, hopefully to go through if COVID restrictions get moved. We have our annual superhero ride for Kelly, which goes out to the Children's Hospital every year. And then we have our mentor program that we're actually going to increase as soon as the gym opens to take on about 30 kids rather than the 5.
Wow, that's amazing. Well, fingers crossed that everything works out for this summer and planning and everything. So, for any viewers who wonder what it is that makes people want to ride a motorcycle, or for anyone thinking about buying a bike, tell us why you love to ride, Chris.
I just like the freedom. You can get on it and go anywhere you want. You see sites you never thought would have thought of going to in a car or a truck. Sometimes you just get on and go to random spots for no reason whatsoever, but to get out and have fun and feel the wind in your face and relax and leave the cares of work or any problems you're having somewhere else.
I like that. I bet you end up finding little communities and things that you normally wouldn't see, and so it's kind of cool in that way.
Yeah, for sure. You definitely find out where the good burgers are.
Oh, absolutely. Now, statistics tell us that driving a motorcycle is more dangerous, of course, than driving a car or truck. So, almost two-thirds of collisions involving a motorcycle result in injury or death. So, what's the main issue? Is it that motorcycles are much less visible than other vehicles?
Um, well, motorcycles, they definitely are less visible. It depends on the type of the bike. When you get some of the Harleys and the Roadsters, they're fairly loud, so you definitely know they're coming. Um, a lot of it, it's due to people being distracted behind the wheel on their phone, I can't tell you how many times I've come up beside somebody and they're texting or talking on their phone and don't even realize that you're there. And there could be a group of 5 or 6 of you right beside them, and kind of startles them when they realize you're there. And speed sometimes and driving beyond your ability is a major factor in some of those accidents as well.
Okay, interesting. Yeah. Now, what should drivers be on the lookout for? Should they be double checking blind spots or looking twice? A lot of times we're not thinking about those motorbikes, are we?
Yeah, definitely shoulder checking. I find a lot of people don't end up shoulder checking, and they don't see you. You're sometimes farther over in the lane, so accidents do happen. One good thing to do is if you're driving with kids, you teach them to count the motorbikes that they see, and call them out. And that's going to transition them later on when they're adults to automatically identify that there are the smaller vehicles on the road.
That's a great idea. Instead of I spy, it's like count the motorcycles, and then that way it helps the driver for sure
Exactly.
stay more alert. And then the kids are feeling like they're contributing, and it gets them off of the screen time too, doesn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. A little more interaction, and there's plenty of different games you can do with it.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Now, when it comes to passing a motorcycle, is there a right way and a wrong way to do this?
You definitely want to make sure you give that cyclist, some room. You don't want to crowd into the lane, or you tend to go where you're looking. So if you're looking at the guy on the motorbike, you may start veering towards him, and that can both scare the rider and the person driving real quick. And if that's taking your eyes off the street, something could happen in front of you, and then you're going to react by trying to go into a different lane, and that's that's no good for anybody in that situation.
No, exactly. Now, you had mentioned before that you might be going a little too fast. So, and this is interesting because sometimes we forget that motorcycles have faster acceleration and also they slow down a lot quicker, right?
They do, depending on the rider's ability.
Okay.
Um, Definitely, one of the major tips I have for anybody is don't drive outside your ability. If you're a new rider the first couple of years, you want to definitely stay with that speed limit and give yourself extra time anytime you're going anywhere. Maybe not ride with somebody on the back right away, because that can change the situation quite a bit as well. And just ride like everybody's out to get you, and you'll notice what's around you.
Yeah. So, what's your advice for bikers to stay safe? Is it to wear highly visible reflective gear, for example?
They can. It does work. Usually, it really depends on your driving ability. If you're going way too fast for the situation or the conditions, then you're going to cause more problems on your own than you want. But my number one tip for anybody on a motorbike is, again, ride like everybody's out to get you, and be aware of your surroundings, be aware of the conditions, dress for the ride, right? You don't want to be wearing shorts and a tank top, because if you wipe out, that's going to hurt.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like we've all seen it. We've seen those bikers out there with shorts and tank tops and t-shirts. Is that unsafe? And you just answered the question.
Yeah, most definitely. You always see bikers in leather. It's not really for the look. It's more for the safety. That leather is
Yeah.
going to protect you when you're sliding on the road.
Wow. Yeah, exactly. Now, what about roads that have sand and gravel on them, or bumpy roads or potholes? How do bikers navigate that?
It can get tricky sometimes. If you're in an area that you're not familiar with, sometimes you can come up onto where a highway will end, and it's gravel or it's construction. So that comes back down to being aware of your surroundings, and driving for the conditions. If it's a road you're not familiar with 100%, you're not going to go racing down it, or be looking at the scenery as much. You're going to be paying a little bit more attention to what's in front of you.
Yeah, that's got to be hard, especially when you hit those mountain roads and stuff and it's so beautiful all around you. But like any driver, right? Stay safe, focus on the road in front of you. What about, yeah, what about driving at night? I would imagine that that would likely present some more challenges.
It does. You're definitely less visible at night. So you want to make sure that you're giving yourself even more room around other vehicles that are around you. Make sure that when you're coming up beside of a vehicle, you look at the driver and see that they're looking at you. If you can see their eyeballs, they can see you. So you know that they know you're there. If you do come up beside a car and that driver's distracted or doesn't see you, hasn't made eye contact you, it's usually a good idea to get out of that positioning and either be in front of the car if you're in a lane beside it or behind it, and just take your time and get to your destination safe.
Yeah, that's great advice. What about wet roads or foggy weather conditions?
Yeah, that comes again to riding within your skill level. If it's I've ridden in some rainstorms where visibility is very low, I've lowered my speed way down to accommodate for that. Having a good helmet that doesn't fog up, and definitely wearing the right equipment for the wet weather, so you're not getting soaked to the bone, or and having good tires that aren't worn out, so you have a little bit more traction, staying out of the big puddles, and just driving for the conditions like you would in a car.
Right, basically common sense, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Now, there
Yeah.
are electric motorcycles and scooters out there. And of course, one disadvantage is that they're not only hard to see, but they're also hard to hear. Any thoughts on this?
I actually haven't come across any electric motorbikes quite yet. The scooters, I find usually there are a lot of younger kids on them who may not have the experience. So they definitely want to stay in the center of that lane when they're riding it and make sure they know everything that's going on around them. Don't be listening to headphones or
Yeah,
have your phone mounted where you can see what's going on with that.
right.
Just concentrate on the task at hand and getting where you're going.
That's really good advice, especially for those younger, more inexperienced riders or drivers. Definitely, definitely, especially with that distraction with the screen. Absolutely. So, what would you say to a viewer who would like to take up motorcycling? How do you get started? Who should you talk to?
Uh, you can talk to your local bike communities. They'll give you a lot of information. The reps at the stores will usually help you out. If it's your first bike, definitely take a course, rider safety course. They have them out here at the Lethbridge College. I know there's some in Calgary at the schools there, and some private ones as well. That'll definitely help increase your awareness and increase your ability. And don't buy a bike that's too big for learning on.
Yeah, what kind of motorcycle should you start learning on?
A lot of people will go on a 750 cc or an 1100 cc bike. They're usually lighter, a little bit easier to control, a little bit lower to the ground. Once you get into the bigger bikes, you've got just more weight and more power, and it can be harder to learn on.
Yeah, makes sense. Now, bikers have traditionally been more of a guy thing, but are you seeing more women getting involved these days?
Yeah, for sure. I know in Lethbridge there's a couple of only women's groups that ride. In our group, our wives all ride with us, and they're currently learning how to ride their own motorcycles as well, so that they can, have that same freedom as well. I definitely encourage anybody to ride, no matter if you're male or female, or older or younger. It's a good skill to learn. It increases your, I think personally, it increases your ability while you're driving, because you're definitely more aware of what's going on to you when you're driving your regular car or a truck.
Interesting, absolutely. And then you hear of families that sometimes say that like a son, brothers, the dads, they all kind of take off on motorcycle trips together. I would imagine it's a good bonding experience.
Yeah, yeah, you definitely get close with the people you ride with. That's
Hmm.
for sure.
Yeah,
Is
great,
it?
great for those married couples, like you were saying with the wives.
It is. Yeah, I know my wife likes going on the back of my bike, and we'll just do random day trips and overnights once in a while to different places, and you see things normally you would never see, and it's just nice and quiet. There's no distractions, and you have fun.
Awesome. That sounds like a whole lot of fun. I might have to take up a new hobby.
Yeah, it's a great hobby. It gets expensive. There's always some dad to your motorbike, but it is a
Absolutely.
good hobby.
Thanks so much for your time today, Chris. We really appreciate
Yeah,
you
for
being
sure.
on. Chris Plum is a spokesperson for Bikers Building Bridges right here in Lethbridge.